kidness on the screen over here. Has anyone ever heard of Kid President? Yeah. Okay, well he has a little something to tell us today. I'll send you, pulls that up on the screen there. There he is. We'll bring the light.
To a person on their first day here. Today over 360,000 babies will be born, and you are one of them. Welcome, this is the world. It's a pretty cool place. There's lots to see and smell. There's corn dogs. I'm getting ahead of myself. There's just so much to do. Singing, dancing, oh, and laughing. Laughing's the best. Especially great.
Sorry.
When you laugh, milk comes out of your nose. Or if you just have milk. Otherwise, it's just gross. Some days gross things will happen. Some days awesome things will happen. Some days you'll get ice cream. Some days you won't. Some days you kite and fly high. Some days you get stuck in the tree. It's just how it is here. There's plenty of reasons to dance. You just gotta look for them. Don't worry though, you won't be doing this alone. You're gonna meet lots of people here. Some of them will be really nice, and some won't be. It's not that they can't be, it's just, maybe they're just having a bad day. Being a person is hard sometimes. You should give people high fives just for getting out of bed. Oh, high fives, I forgot to explain that. How do I explain this? It's kind of, high fives are like hitting someone who is your friend. That's really bad. Just treat everybody like it's their birthday. Even if they don't deserve it. Because we all mess up sometimes. The biggest mess up, not forgiving each other's mess ups. Maybe you'll be a teacher. Maybe you'll be president. Maybe you'll cure every disease ever. You might even see the Grand Canyon, swim in the ocean. This is so much. It's a lot. Try this, take a breath. Isn't that amazing? It's called breathing. You're gonna do it a lot. Nobody knows exactly how much. So enjoy it. Pay attention. Take brain pictures. Because amazing things will happen every day. You're gonna do so much. But it's not about what you do. It's about who you are. And you're awesome. You're made that way. You're made from love, to be loved, to spread love. Love is always loud, no matter what. Even if hate has a bullhorn. Love is loud. So let your life be loud. Let's shout to the world. Things can be better. It's okay about all the mess ups. We're not true. Sorry, I should keep bringing that up. I don't think I told you this yet. We're really glad you're here. We don't say that enough to each other here because, well, life gets busy. You're gonna be doing it, and you're gonna do a lot, and you're gonna smell great, but don't get too busy. Remember to let everybody know you're glad they're here. You don't have to remember all this right now. You're gonna need a pep talk sometimes, and that's okay. For now, remember this. You're awake, you're awesome, live like it.
Isn't he cute? Out of the mouths of babes, definitely. So, what's your corn dog? What are you grateful for? Let's hear it.
Now I'm grateful for getting up.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yes, for all of us. Awesome, isn't it? I'm just so grateful to be here today, speaking to all of you. Wow. Love you all.
Love you, Rev.
I'm getting a little feedback in the monitor. Can we turn it down just a little bit? Thank you. So we're gonna look over here at the wheel. People have seen the wheel before, right? Yeah. There's a book that I've been reading and using for my own special practice for myself to stay focused on what's important. And it's called Ula, Find Balance in an Unbalanced World. And the authors of the book, Ula's kind of an interesting title, but what it was is they studied for years and they said it's the Ooh-la-la life, so they just shortened it and called it Ula instead. And I took a workshop with them and it was really cool. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So over here we have the wheel, and we have 7 different parts of the wheel. They do everything in sevens. So they're all the 7 F's of Ula. So we have faith and fun and friends and family and finance and fitness, and then integral parts of each of those. Someone's definition of fitness might be different than someone else's, or someone's definition of faith might be different than someone else's. So looking at faith, I remember this time when I was about 16 years old, and between the ages of 16 and 18, I had a lot of death in my family and friends. So it was kind of a wakening up period, I guess, in my life, not realizing it at the time at 16. But I remember I'd gone to my grandfather's funeral, and I was raised Catholic. Any Catholics in the room? They know the tradition of the wake and the funeral. And recover, yeah, some people call it recovered Catholic. I'm just grateful that I have the background, and it kind of moved me. Anyway, so moving back to that, I was sitting in the pew, and I remember thinking, okay, there's the priest up there, and he's telling me that I need to go to confession before I can get communion. And at 16, you're like, you kind of just, oh yeah, it's kind of that time when you kind of want to start thinking outside the box a little bit, at least for me it was. So I stood there and I'm like, what is this? It's like, how come the priest is telling me what I can and can't do? And then I remembered it was a lot of fun. I had some really great fun a couple of years ago. We went on a houseboat. Anyone been up to Lake Shasta on a houseboat or been on a houseboat ever? A lot of fun. So I'm with a group of people, and we picked the perfect time to go on our houseboat. Some of you might have heard this story. So we picked 5 days because that's when everybody, our friends and family, could go, right? Well, the 5 days we chose was 4 days of rain and 1 day of sun. So the first day was great. Sun, we were going down the water slide, we got upgraded in our houseboat, it was big. We got to go down the water slide out the back, and it was a lot of fun. And then that night, I thought, okay, so we put on some music, we were dancing around, and upstairs, my son Jolie, my daughter Jolie, and my son Paul were upstairs. We're downstairs, all the other adults are downstairs dancing, and on comes the radio comes. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. And in that moment, Jolie and Paul come running down the stairs, and they said, the houseboat's untied. Oh, boy. So, anyway, so looking at these, the next thing I'd like to focus on is fitness. Anyone struggle with getting to the gym or just working out? Yeah, I can relate. About 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, I decided I was going to take care of the vessel, and I was going to start working out. And I joined gyms before. Anybody join a gym and never go? Yeah, that would be me if I did that. This time I was committed. But I'm not a treadmill person. I'm not an elliptical person. I don't care for them because I have a lot of mind chatter. Anybody have mind chatter? I can't do it on the elliptical. Well, 18 more minutes. Oh, 17 and a half more minutes. It's like, no, it just wasn't for me. So I decided to find something that I enjoyed. And that was Zumba. We have any Zumba people in the room? Cardio dance, any of that? Oh, I just love it. So I walk in, I walked into the room, and I'm standing at the back of the room because I didn't know the steps, right? It's like, okay, let's see. So I walk in, and the instructor is fabulous. She is like, got passion for what she did, and she's just awesome. I just totally loved her. So I worked my way up to the second row, got enough confidence, got up there, and a lot of people really liked her. And then I found out about 3 weeks ago that she's moving. And I could have gone I kind of did go into that place, poor me, my Zumba teacher's leaving. Because you kind of get attached to your Zumba teacher. People were crying because she was moving. It was kind of, just like, so anyway, I went home and I was kind of in a downer mood. And then, if we look at this wheel, we have, the wheel could roll really smoothly if we have balance in all these areas. But if say in finance, we have a lot of debt or whatever, so maybe we're a 2 on finance. And then in fitness, we've kind of been working out, so we're like a 5. And then faith, we've been meditating, but maybe not as much as we should. So we're like around a 4. And then in fun, we're an 8 or a 9. That'd be me. I like the fun. Now I don't have to focus on fun because I just like having fun. And then friends, we hang out with our friends. So about an 8. And then maybe in our family, we're not really connecting, so it's a 2. I'm just throwing different things out there so you can kind of get a picture. And then field, we're really focused on our field, so we're like an 8 here. So you can kind of picture in your mind what your wheel might look like when it was rolling, right? Thump, thump, thump. Thump, thump, thump. Not quite doing the smooth roll. And then we have here at the hub, we have God. For some of us, it's God. For some of it might be something else. Higher power. Could be ourselves. It just depends where we are in our life. You know, there's no wrong or anything like that. Just where you are. So, looking at that. So anyway, so I went to the training that I told you about, workshops, a lot of fun. We had to set 21 goals. 21 goals for the year. But then as we went along, we actually brought it down to 7 things that we really wanted to focus on. So it was really cool, and we met a lot of nice people. So looking at this, so things that might stop us in our lives. Blockers. Guilt, laziness, lack of focus, envy, anger, fear, self-sabotage might be blockers from getting us out there doing what we really want to do with our lives. So let's look at laziness. This is how I do laziness. Oh, I gotta make a list of people I gotta call, and well, there's something on TV right now. I think I'm gonna go and watch television. You know, and sometimes we don't even realize, we usually don't realize we're doing it to ourselves, right? We just do it because that's what we know, and we keep doing it over and over and over until we learn to do it differently. And then, let's see, so guilt, like, oh, I really should go do that, but I really want to rather do this, and you feel guilty about it, flogging yourself, you know. For me, it comes back from way back in the past life, I think. From the organized religion, for me, guilt. For some reason, it kind of runs me, guilt and doubt. Those are 2 that I struggle with. Doubt's not on the list, but I'll add it. Definitely it. So these things kind of, how I look at these is we've moved away from our higher self, our God self. We've just detached from it in that moment when we're feeling all these things. To me, these aren't real. They're not real. They're an illusion.
Good.
And then I look over at accelerators. This is the good stuff, right? Gratitude and love and humility and wisdom, integrity, discipline, passion. So we get in touch with, gratitude is huge for me. If I can focus on what I'm grateful for, then everything else seems to kind of go, fall into place. But it's the doing it, in the moment when something is not going the way I think it should go. It's getting in that space of gratitude and remembering God is the doer. God is the doer. Rhonda, I always think of you when I say that. And it comes to me because that's something I need to focus on for myself, is realizing that I stand and open and God is the doer through me. And it's intellectually, I get it. It's getting it here. Anybody relate to that at all? Or am I standing here all alone? Okay, great. So gratitude for me is the number 1. And I realize, love, yes, of course. We all love each other. Here, you walk into this room and it's tangible. And humility and wisdom and integrity. And then there's passion. And I have why next to passion. Because passion is what drives me. Like if I'm passionate about something and I focus on the passion, the why, like why am I doing it? Then everything else kind of falls into place. So I'd like to read something out of my book here that came up for me at the workshop. So if I read this every day and every night and every time I get lazy or start sabotaging myself or feel angry and I go to this, it's helpful for me. So I'm going to share what I wrote. My why in the area of field. I want everyone on this planet to know that they are loved and worth living their dream, whatever that dream is. I want to wipe out shame and doubt from this planet. And I want everyone to feel worthy and know that they are loved by their Creator. Now, it's kind of hard to be lazy when I came up with that one. And I was just sitting there, it's like, oh, that's a big one. Oh, But I wrote it down and I read it every day. And I don't know what it's going to look like in my life, what the out-picturing is going to be. But if I stay in touch with that why, it just helps keep me focused. Anyone relate to that? Okay. Okay. Put this back over here. Integrity. I think for me, integrity, I have a harder time with integrity with myself than I do with others. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, oh, nobody's watching. Nobody's watching, but someone is watching. But just that feeling of acceptance of myself and I'm going to do this and I'm doing it even though nobody's watching. I'm going to sit in my room and I'm going to meditate. It's easy to say, oh yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. The room's calling. No, let's go get a cup of coffee instead. Oh, Facebook, yeah. Just that I relate, because that's kind of how I do it sometimes, But then I realize if I just go and make the coffee, while the coffee's brewing, look at Facebook, coffee's done, pick up my coffee and go into my meditation room, I am more apt to do it. That's what I find works for me when I work it. Not perfect at it. So, but, we're all working at things, right? We're all perfect in our own way because we're children of God. Of course we're perfect, right? Every part of us is perfect. Yeah. Okay, so I was going to read a little thing about faith because I thought this was really cool. Let me just get a drink of water here. Oh, I have a little quote that I just happened to pop up yesterday morning. You have to let go of what blocks you to reveal God's purpose within you. So don't let that shadow what you're here to do.
Say it again, Rev.
You have to let go of what blocks you to reveal God's purpose within you.
Oh, snap.
So looking at those, let it go. Right?
Yeah.
Focus like that. Gotta recognize it and sometimes know where it comes from.
Amen.
Okay. So I'm going to read a little bit about faith. So in this book, there's the Ulu Guru and the Ula Seeker. That's what they call themselves, Dr. Dave and Dr. Troy. So this is written by Ula Seeker, Dr. Dave. The struggle. With all my heart, I have always believed that the purpose of my life is designed by God. I have no problem having the faith to put my life in God's hands. And I'm very grateful that I have this understanding with my heart. But when it comes to trusting my faith, I have the tendency to go inside my head and start questioning everything. Anybody? Yeah, okay. I think that it is human nature to overthink our lives, our decisions, and our purpose. I heard a story a couple years ago that best describes how to bridge the heart and head thing. The story goes something like this. A university professor asked the question, "Did God create everything that exists?" Many students replied, "Yes, God did create everything that exists." The next question the professor asked was, "If God created everything, then you are saying that God created evil, since evil exists. And according to the principle that our work defines who we are, then God is evil, the auditorium was silent. Eventually, a student raised his hand and said, "Professor, I want to ask you a question. Does cold exist?" Professor replied, "What kind of question is this?" "Of course cold exists." The young man replied, "In fact, sir, cold does not exist. According to the laws of physics, what we perceive as cold is actually the absence of heat. Absolute zero, negative 460 degrees Fahrenheit, is the total absence of heat. All matter becomes inert and incapable of reaction at that temperature. Cold does not exist. We have created this word to describe how it feels if we have not enough heat." The student asked another question, "Professor, does darkness exist?" The professor responded, "Yes, of course it does." The student replied, "You are wrong again, sir. Darkness in reality is the absence of light. Light we can study, but not darkness. We can measure light, but we cannot measure darkness. How can you know how dark a certain space is? You measure the amount of light present. Darkness is a term used by man to describe what happens when there is no light present. So, Professor, I ask you, does evil exist?" Now uncertain, the professor responded, "Of course evil exists. I see it every day. Murders, wars, crimes, and simply man's inhumanity to man prove that all evil exists. These manifestations are nothing but evil." The student interrupted, "Sorry, evil does not exist, sir. Evil is simply the absence of God. It is just like the darkness and the cold, simply a word that man has created to describe the absence of God. God did not create evil. Evil is not like faith or love that do exist, just as does light and heat. Evil is not like faith or love." Evil is a result of what happens when man does not have faith that God's love is present in his heart. It's like the cold that shows up in the absence of heat, and the darkness that shows up in the absence of light. The story ends with the professor being stumped and bewildered, and the claim is that the student was Albert Einstein. Whether it's true or not, the very simple story reminds me to have faith in my heart, because it is impossible to figure it out in my head. I continue to work hard with my faith, and I have committed to always improving this key area of my life. I read that because that is something I relate to, so I wanted to share that with you. So, does this exist? Or does this exist? Okay. So we're going to take a quick minute in your, you've each got one of these in your bulletin. Does everyone have one? Okay. So we're just going to take a couple minutes, and Dean's going to come up here for me and play our music while you guys are doing this. It shouldn't take too long. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, you're going to rate your face. So you're going to answer. There's no right or wrong. It's just for your information only. Just kind of see where you're at with it. So there is a little typo thing in there. Number 3, it says I am plugged, in case people can't read it. Okay? Just take 2 or 3 minutes, and Dean will serenade you for a couple minutes.
Yes, I would.
Anyone need a pencil? Okay. Yes. Just kind of look up when you're done. haven't finished, we can take a little time later to finish it. But going back to the time when I was sitting in the pew and the priest said, you have to go to confession before you go to communion. I remember thinking to myself, I don't need to go through the priest to do that. I have a direct line to God. And I kind of drifted off my path for a while, but I found my way back. So just remembering that that faith is in me. And then the houseboat trip when Jolie and Paul came running down from above, saying, the houseboat's untied, the houseboat's untied. Well, all the friends and family worked together as a team, and we got that houseboat tied back up. We lost a cell phone in the water, I fell in the water, and we got a bathing suit fall into the prop. Next morning we found it was all torn up. You know what, it was okay, and that was very funny at the time, but we worked together, we got it done. And then coming back to Sue, who's moving away, I actually went upstairs that day when I got home and I was feeling kind of down, and I wrote in my gratitude journal about how grateful I was for her and how she had motivated me to stick with exercising. It had been 3 years. And then I found her on Facebook. I actually told her to her face on Friday, and then I wrote a little more on Facebook to her, a little note letting her know, because we don't tell each other sometimes how grateful we are for people, So it's really, really important to take the time to do that. So that being said, I'm grateful for each and every one of you for being here today, and I hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with family and friends.